This video is brought to you by BTI Institute, a New Jersey leader in certification-based management training.
So let's get started. The topic of certifications always seem to be popular. And here it is in the summer, a lot of time people have some budgets for training or thinking of it, and we have an alphabet soup of sorts in the world of agility. I've been very fortunate that over the years, I've had exposure to several trainers, to several certifying bodies. I have taken courses all out of pocket, no sponsorship, time away from family. And I'm a bit of a nutcase. My wife told me a few years ago she thought I was having an affair with Scrum, but I really enjoyed the subject, and not only Scrum and other Agile flavors, but I like to see about scaling and what's happening in the industry. We do have an agenda of sorts. We've got a little bit of history on Scrum timelines, some reflective questions, and we get into the certifying bodies, the Scrum Alliance, Scrum.org. We'll get into PMI as well, and then we'll do a few comparisons. Now, over the years, scaling is taking off. That means you're not only working with one or two teams, but possibly more and at program or portfolio level. How does Scrum work there or other Agile practices? We'll touch a little bit into that as well. And time permitting, we'll touch on newer certifications just slightly. We do have this deck that'll be available right afterwards. And again, this is also being recorded. So a lot of good stuff here. So some Scrum timelines. Now, Scrum was introduced around the mid-90s when it was published at conferences. The new product development game came about in the mid-80s about how people were starting to do software development similar to the game of rugby, and how people were passing the ball next to each other. And it seemed that a lot of organizations that were nimble and were willing to follow something similar were really thriving and succeeding as compared to some that just didn't make it. Around 2001, we had the Agile Manifesto by one of the visionaries. We met at a ski resort in Colorado. Scrum Alliance was formed in 2004. Thereafter, in 2009, Ken Traber established Scrum.org. And some of the reason I bring this historically is some people ask me, hey, Nitin, how come PMI hasn't taken up or come forward as quickly as some of the other certifying bodies? Well, that's because they came up with the Pmi Acp a little later, and it's just a logistical thing. And as time has gone about, people have inspected and adapted, and they have reshaped some certifications as early as 2018. And even this year, Scrum.org has established some newer certifications. So sometimes when you talk to people, you kind of get a sense of their journey, where they came from, what was available, and so on. But wait a minute, I was in a LinkedIn forum a few years ago, and I was just finding something, and it was interesting. How long have you really been practicing Scrum or some form of agility? To me, it's more of a Zen philosophy. And I live one town over from Edison. And it's interesting, some people said, hey, there was something on the History Channel, and it's possible Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, was doing something scrummy or something in the world of agility, not exactly Scrum, but he was doing the inspect and adapt, where he was getting some input and some feedback from people every 10 days or so, and, reshaping things. So again, I see this more of a Zen philosophy of sorts, but it's trickling into corporations as well. So let's get into the actual certifying bodies. Right now, the Scrum Alliance remains the most popular, and there are 3 certification tracks: Certified Scrum Master, or CSM, the Certified Scrum Product Owner, or CSPO, and the Certified Scrum Developer, or CSD. These are all intro level certifications. No prior experience is needed. You don't have to be reading any books. You could just go in, take the course, take the training, after which there's a test and an assessment. It's multiple choice, open book, and depending on your interest, you can head towards either being a Scrum Master, who's typically facilitating, mentoring, teaching, or coaching, or someone who's closer to the business, the voice of the customer, getting into more of the metrics, the value add, the vision, the roadmap. The underlying framework is the same. So irrespective of which path you take, you're always going to be coming out with the fundamentals and core of Scrum. Now, should you wish to advance ahead, the Scrum Alliance recently introduced the AACSM, or the Advanced, and the AACSPO, which would then lead to a third level of source, the Certified Scrum Professional. A couple of years ago, they did not have this middle section, so you went from being a Certified Scrum Master to a Certified Scrum Professional. But again, certifications are evolving, inspect and adapt, and this is where we're at. I'm going to skip over to CSD, or Certified Scrum Developer, because we don't get a lot of questions around that. But this is what you have as the intro-level certifications and knowledge-based certifications. Moving on, with the Scrum Alliance, you have something ahead. You could either be CSD, or Certified Scrum Trainer. So these are the people who will be hosting and conducting those 2-day trainings. If you are into coaching, you have certain designations. The Certified Team Coach is someone who works with a multitude of teams, or if you are working at an organizational level with executives and the thought leaders and the visionaries of the company, and you truly are working at the enterprise, you get the CEC designation. All of these are advanced. It is application-based. It is something that could be denied. You could, and you most certainly will have interviews, and thereafter you get these designations. These are what are called competency-based certifications. A little bit of history, and sometimes I unfortunately still see these in the job board saying they're looking for a CSC, or Certified Scrum Coach, whereas the recruiter just doesn't know, or the organization doesn't realize that the CSC was revamped into these two areas. So let me pause very quickly. I'm going to jump back up on just the Scrum Alliance path and say, hey, are there any questions at this stage before I kind of jump into starting some of the more of the comparisons? And if you're getting ahead of ourselves, I'll mute everybody or I'll pause, okay? So if you have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself or chat or put something in the chat. And once you're done, just go ahead and mute yourself again. And I'm going to just quickly look at the chat as well. Some questions are coming in from the chat. Yes, there are some other certifying bodies other than the Scrum Alliance. Those are scrum.org and PMI. The Certified Scrum Master training is 2 days long in person. There is one exception to that, but this is something you have to take in person before getting the exam. And for the upcoming October one, I'm seeing in the chat, we'll send out an email, we'll see it on the website, you'll be getting ample of opportunities and different ways of hearing about the registration when it opens up.
Nitin, somebody asked in the chat group, how long is the training to get the CSM?
2 days in person.
And then also asked, where are the courses offered for CSM?
All over the United States and other countries. If you're traveling, just go to Scrum Alliance and go there. I know because we're in New Jersey, there are courses in Edison, which is closer to a train station. And New York City is always having something, either weekday or weekend as well. Self-study is not possible with the CSM. You do have to take the in-person training. And I actually recommend that. Initially, I was a little hesitant as to why do I have to do this if I can possibly do self-study. But it was quite an eye-opener for me. I had a wonderful trainer and someone who mentored me thereafter. And it's very interactive, very hands-on, and it's fun.
And another question was that, how do you choose which line to train on? Or are you covering that later?
That's something I ask people to reflect on in terms of whether they want to learn more about being a Scrum Master or a product owner. And I can even connect with people offline later. But basically, the CSM, the Scrum Master, is doing something on a daily basis, hands-on, working closer with the dev team, again, one-on-one, teaching, mentoring, facilitating, coaching. And it's a little bit different than the product owner who's trying to get the most value from the dev team and also has closer interaction with the multitude of stakeholders and representing the voice of the customer.
Okay. I'll keep on helping people read off the questions in the chat group to help Nitin out here. But again, all of you please feel free to turn on your microphone and ask your question directly of Nitin, so that just in case we might miss your question in the chat group, because it is scrolling kind of quickly, or in case I'm not phrasing your question correctly, please feel free to turn on your microphone to ask the question. And when you do, I would encourage you to turn on your camera so we can see who's asking that question. Another question that came up here is that, do you need to have your PMP to be a CSM?
No, you do not. They're completely independent, and a CSM or even a PSM, which we'll get into intro level courses. And John, I can see the chat window as well, so I'm seeing all the questions.
Okay, all right, so you're gonna...
Yes, and the average costs about $1,100, $1,200 for that, unless you get an early bird of sorts. There are some trainers in New York City who might offer an early bird if you're a PMI New Jersey member and part of the Agile group. You can email me about that, and I can recommend people.
Hi, Nitin. This is Catherine Rocco.
Go ahead with your question.
Yes. Is there a certification for a release train engineer?
That is with the Scaled Agile Academy, which you get into SAFE.
Okay.
Those are a little advanced because that's getting into scaling. So hold off just a little bit, and I'll talk about that towards the end.
Thank you.
Hi, can I ask a question, please?
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Latfi Saleh, and I'm very much into organizational project management, like setting up the PMO, portfolio management, maturity models, and all this stuff. I'm more than a project manager capacity. So my question to you is, I have been asking a lot of people in the Agile, and unfortunately, I'm not able to get an answer till now. Is there a career path that if you'd like to go like in portfolio or a program management, you know, when you set up, let me explain it from another perspective. When I set up the project management office, there are some users are going to use the traditional project management methodology, waterfall, and some other people, they are going to use Agile based on the requirement, based about suitability, whatever you call it. So as a PMO in charge, I need to develop or convert my skills or upgrade my skills from the waterfall, which has been doing for almost 20 years, to Agile. But I'm not looking to become Scrum Master or to manage Agile projects. I need to have the enterprise capabilities or that help me to implement it on enterprise level. What is your recommendation?
It's a loaded question. I'll just give you my quick opinion, and we can even connect offline later. I would say take a basic Scrum certificate, irrespective. You need to immerse yourself a little bit into the philosophy and understand the roles and see what people are doing and what's out there in the industry. Thereafter, I would get into some sort of scaling training, and I would see if you can get some mentorship from an Agile coach, or simply hire an Agile coach, or find someone who can give you an assessment. Because although you might still be working at an organizational level, every organization is different, and that comes to the culture, the industry, and some other logistical things like budget. It all matters. So I applaud you, firstly, for exploring that and being open to both tracks, because there are organizations that do both. But again, very quickly, I recommend take a simple course, then get into some sort of scaling, and find some mentorship with people who've done something similar.
Okay. Is
And
there any possibility to offline to communicate with you to get some guidance on this?
Yeah, just email me afterwards. We can have a conversation. And also, I'm going to get a little bit into the scaling part of certification and training after this. So,
Is
let me
there?
pause.
Okay, go ahead.
Nitin, this is Paul Stevens. I'm in this kind of the same situation. I'm a program manager. I have a portfolio of projects and project managers that I work with. And one of the things, our company's getting more and more into Agile, but my experience is that I've seen a lot more bad Agile than good Agile. So
True.
one of the things that I'm trying to get into is figuring out, okay, how do I evaluate the professionals that we hire to come in and do these roles, as well as how do I monitor folks that are doing Agile correctly, as opposed to that, I do Agile, and it really tends to deteriorate when people take their own personal preferences into the process.
That's a great question. And I think it supplements a little bit we talked earlier in the program and project level. I think you have to know the fundamentals of whatever flavor of agility that you need firstly. Some of it is through formal training and certifications, and some of it is the interview process. I ask a bunch of questions that can throw people off, and I like to just get their perspective because I've been a Scrum Master, I've been a product owner, I am an Agile coach as well. And it's fun just to hear some of the answers, but there are questions you can ask, and you'll get to know very quickly how much they're truly immersed in it, and whether it's going to be a fragile hire or a true enthusiast. Again, at the end of the call, I'll try to talk a little bit more about this, and we can connect a little later as well. All righty?
Can I ask more questions, Nitin, or I have a few questions more? Do you mind?
No, so pause for a moment. Wait till I reach the scaling slides, and then take a look.
It is not about scaling. It's is there any?
Pause for a moment. I want to move ahead because I just want to compare something against the Scrum Alliance or with it, and I'll open it up again in a couple of minutes, and then jump in. Does that sound okay?
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. One last thing I'm going to pick up from the chat. The question is, what part of Scrum aligned to project manager activities is CSM the right aligned certification? So I'm going to answer this a little differently. There is no project manager in the world of Scrum, but it doesn't mean the functions disappear. The functions are kind of scattered amongst the members of the Scrum team. So product owner, Scrum Master, and dev team. And we'll have to talk a bit more about that as we progress. And the CSM may or may not align completely to what you're doing, because unfortunately, there's still this misconception that a Scrum Master can do what a project manager does, or vice versa. They're very different roles. And a product owner is also a very different role than a project manager. So let's go ahead a little bit, make a few more comparisons, and get into the logistical things and talk more. So mute yourself if you can. I think you've already done so. Let me jump now to another certifying body. Scrum.org, which came a few years later after the Scrum Alliance, It was co-founded by Ken Schwaber, and they offer a few courses as well. The one simple distinction is the letter that starts with the certification is P for professional as compared to C for certified. So they have a fundamentals course, which is a little bit different, or PSF, and they have your professional Scrum Master, professional Scrum Product Owner, and your professional Scrum Developer. The instructors are known as PSTs, or Professional Scrum Trainers. And they also introduced scaling later around December of 2014. I was fortunate enough to have participated in the very first class that was co-hosted, and the co-training was done by Ken Schwaber himself at that time. Now, one interesting thing is the PSM and PSPO offer level 2s, which are more rigorous in the assessments, and the PSM also offers a level 3 certification. There are very few in the world who hold those designations. So if you're looking for someone with some really solid credentials, and when you get to level 2s and 3s, you're gonna have to write your answers. So it's kind of like essay-based in some instances. It's time-boxed, and someone's actually reading your answers. So it's not just a multiple choice, something you can take a guess at or try to beat it. It's rigorous. Now, with Scrum.org, I'm going to pause again very quickly because I think it's very similar before I get into the PMI Acp. So I'm going to open it up for some questions. And if you want, you can unmute yourself, take a couple of minutes, or send something in the chat.
Can I ask Nitin?
Yes, jump in now.
I don't know if it's related to scaling or not. In traditional project management, there is something called the maturity model. In a maturity model, I go to the organization and I assess the current situation, and then I propose to them improvement, how they can do project management based on traditional project management. Now, one of the challenges that is slowing me down to go into the agile space is almost there are 10 variations: lean, XP, Scrum, Kanban, here and here and here. So the question, it's two questions in one actually. Which one to start with? Is there any global agile framework? And is there an agile maturity model came up somewhere or not?
This is a great question. So it's a two-part question and then two-part answer. One is a lot of the maturity models, or quite simply models for assessment, have come up in the industry, and they vary. Some of them are done by external vendors or service providers. I would have you Google evidence-based management. Take a look at that firstly. It's from scrum.org. So there isn't one standard you could go to. You're going to have to look for something that an external vendor offers or a certain body and see what makes sense. Now, here's your dilemma. You go into an ice cream shop, and I use metaphors with a 7-year-old, and you go to Baskin Robbins, and she likes ice cream, but there's so many flavors. And not only are there flavors, you can get it in a cup, you can get it in a cone, you can get sprinkles on top, or sweet gummy bears. Which one do you pick? And maybe she picks the same thing over and over, or maybe she picks something else. In the world of agility, if you're looking into certain practices, you really, again, have to do some sort of an assessment and get a feel of what the company wants. So while Scrum remains the most popular, it may not be the most appropriate at all times. And I'm actually glad to hear that you are familiar with Lean, XP or Extreme Programming, or Kanban, because some projects or initiatives might be better suited that way. Typically, Lean and Kanban are a flow-based approach where you have the typical things to do, in progress, and done. It's a really visual thing. And a lot of that can still be weaved into the Scrum team and how they make work visible. extreme programming has certain practices that Scrum teams borrow and use really well because it's just a framework. But there is, unfortunately, no right or wrong answer to this. You're really going to have to find some way that would make sense to different parts of the organization. I work with a client in life sciences, and they're doing a combination of Scrum and Kanban. They are borrowing from XP, and there are other organizations that are doing the same thing as well. So you're going to have to go in and allow for that as well, in the spirit of agility as well. So
For Scrum, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say that was a long-winded answer, but that is a loaded question.
I know. It's a difficult question. I know that. I'm sorry for that.
Right. No problem. So if you feel right now you still don't have clarity, I'm going to use a different metaphor. You know, while there are two sides of a coin, there are many sides of a pyramid. And in your hand is a pyramid.
I got you.
Right? And you're fine wherever you are. It is a struggle for you, but as you flow and go into it, just move the pyramid in another way and look at it differently. Hear those voices. See what makes sense to a certain team or a program. It's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. There have been efforts, unfortunately, industry, and these are my biases, where they try to shove down some sort of like a one-size-fits-all, but then they struggle. So they try to modify it. And when they try to modify that model, they get back to that pyramid.
Correct.
So,
Is there like I have seen with a company called ScrumStudy.com, they are offering free book, Scrum Body of Knowledge. Is there the other provider of Scrum to Agile framework like Kanban, XP, Lean, whatever XYZ? Is all of these other provider in the Agile space, is all or are all of them, do they have a body of knowledge, or the only one is available is with
no.
this Scrum Body of Knowledge?
So let me say this very undiplomatically. The SBOK, and I'm familiar with Scrum Study, dilutes and misrepresents Scrum. The only true source and authority is the Scrum Guide, as hosted and authored by Ken Schreiber and Dr. Jeff Sutherland. I would stay away from SBOK. I had a choice of venturing into there and studying and getting training, but it isn't worth it. I would be cautious in interviewing people who come in with the SBOK. Still worth a conversation with a person, but it dilutes Scrum. So
who's the author of this SBOK?
I do not know, and it doesn't matter to me. Okay. There is some controversy with Scrum Study. I'll leave it with that. I absolutely do not recommend an organization that doesn't have the backing of one of the signatories of the manifesto, you know, and I'll leave it to that.
Correct.
There's a question. I'm sorry. Go on.
Go ahead, John.
I'm saying that there's a question from Jerry D. If you're still on, Jerry, if you can turn on your camera and ask your question yourself.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm in a bit noisy spot. That's why I didn't turn on my.
Oh, that's okay.
I was basically asking, which way do you choose your study? Right? Do you have the PSM, which is from Scrum.org, or the CSM? Which the better to take? Even though CSM seems to be more of the way that when you're interviewing for new positions, that's the route that you're taking, right? So I wanted some comparisons on that. That's all. Next slide.
Sure, I was expecting this, and I am jumping a little ahead. So it really depends. Some people have sponsorship, and some people have jobs, so there's an economical factor to this. Some people truly just want to do a self-study. They say, hey, I've been doing Scrum for years and years and years, and I can do that. I always recommend a 2-day course, be it through the Scrum Alliance or scrum.org. You pick. Some people will say, hey, scrum.org, there's a more rigorous assessment at the end. I tend to agree that if The PSM one has a little bit more of a rigorous assessment at the end. They need a pass of 85%. It's 1 hour. And again, if I'm out of date, you can always go to these sites and look at the requirements. None of these are proctored. So you can go in, do it in your pajamas at home after the course. So it really depends on where you are. If you want to get into level 2s or level 3s, then I'd still say hold off a little bit, at least do an intro level and then do it. But here is a very brief logistical requirement on the course durations, the tracks, the assessments. PSM is cheaper. It's about $150 or so as compared to, let's say, $1,100 for a 2-day course. And for some people, that's it. Both are PDU eligibles, so there's some similarities as well. So hopefully this answers some of it. But again, if you want to reach out afterwards, I can talk more about my experience as well. I have both. I took the CSM in person. Then I took the PSM 1 online, which I enjoyed. But then I decided, let me take a course as well. So I took courses with the Scrum.org Institute and got my level 2s and level 3s. And let me also jump ahead, Jerry, for the product owner comparisons. If you notice, the product owner organizations, again, both Scrum.org or Scrum Alliance, PSPO, as it's called, you can take it online. They both offer 2-day courses. Now, the one interesting thing is, this is years ago, the CSPO, if you took the 2-day course with Scrum Alliance, you were certified automatically. And the philosophy is you can't really test against or for this, and I was certified right away. For some people, that's something they need for an employer or something quickly, and look at it that way. But again, if you want to go deep and into level 2s, you can look at the level 2s as well. And there's a question from Alan on, is the focus only on Scrum as the only Agile approach for project managers? What about DSDM, or now ATURN as it's known, Agile PM? Agile PM is an oxymoron of sorts, because they say, hey, it really isn't, project manager on a Scrum team, but it's not Scrum itself. So let me jump a little bit into the ACP, if I could, which is the PMI-based one. So I'm going to jump back up. And because we're part of PMI New Jersey, there's the chat, we have to keep in mind that the ACP came a little later. It came around 2011. And it needs some solid work experience. It needs some contact hours from a trainer. And your application will be audited, just like mine was. And mine was indeed. I had already gotten certifications from Scrum Alliance, from Board, and I was still audited. And I said, I've got more than the 21 contact hours, and I've got plenty of work experience. And they also eased up some of the examination criteria as well, which I think was beneficial. I think in the state of New Jersey, I was number 7 who got this credential based on some statistics online. But this is very broad. As an Agile certified practitioner, the focus is not just on Scrum, it's on Lean, it's on Kanban, and the other things. And I do encourage this. If you have the work experience and are looking for something holistic, this might be something worth considering. So again, I'm going to pause for just a moment and open it up for questions, and I will go back to the chat window.
Hey, Nitin, it's Mike Fiorentino.
Hi, Mike, go ahead.
So I had a question about the CSM course and exam. So I'm probably going to be taking a CSM course in the next couple of months. And the one thing I learned from the PMI Acp, which I was certified for 4 months ago, well, I understand now it's open book, but I told some other individuals at some of my colleagues that I wouldn't even recommend doing open books. I feel like it's going to there's to be some doubt that's going to enter your mind. It may slow down your actual performance on the exam. So I'm wondering, from a CSM perspective, would you say that it's worth it to go open book or to go on your intuitions?
Oh, in terms of the test taking strategy,
Yes.
is what you're saying. I wouldn't take an open book because, from my experience, the 2-day in-person is so hands-on, so immersive, and remember, it is an intro-level course. You can clear the exam by yourself. Some people find some comfort in open book, but they're also thinking, hey, maybe it's as rigorous as a proctored exam, it's 4 hours long, maybe there's terminology you have to remember. It's none of that. So I agree with you. If I had a choice, I'd say, hey, just go with your intuition. And I have not really heard of anybody that I've been in touch with who has not cleared the CSM on the first attempt. In case you don't, they do allow a second one, so you can always re-study. But yeah, go by your intuition, and I agree with the strategy that you're proposing.
Okay, thank you.
Sue-Ann, Cecia, you want to ask your question? If you can turn on your camera.
Yeah, my camera's on. Sorry, it was just noisy here.
Oh,
So
okay, there you go. Okay.
That's
Ask your
okay.
question, please.
Sure. I have a two-parter. Did the cost for CSM and PSM include the exam fee, or is that separate? That's part one. And then do you take the test at the end of the 2 days, or do you go to a testing center separately?
Great question, Suen. And I do owe you a phone call still.
So fine.
Also, I haven't forgotten. I've just been juggling diaper duty amongst other things. But good to see you here nonetheless. The cost of the exam is included if you take the in-person. But for PSM, which you can take by self-study, you just pay for that assessment, which is about, I think, 120 or so. And if you do not clear for any reason, you won't get a retake. You will have to spend another 120 or so to that. But for all the certifications under Scrum Alliance, the test cost is included.
Okay.
And I think you asked about proctored or not proctored. None of them are proctored.
Okay, so you take them at where you take the course, and you take it right after the 2-day course. So at the end of the 2 days, the last thing you do is take the course certification.
Yep, you can take it right away. Some Scrum trainers might have a delay of like a day or two just for some internal paperwork. They need to make sure everybody has attended the full 2 days and their name and email match up, and they can submit it to the Scrum Alliance so that they get a login and so on. A lot of trainers are very quick, and typically you can take it right after the course. And it's a question to ask. If you're ever in a rush and you're looking into getting certified, just send the instructor an email. Hey, right after 2 days, would everything be in order? Can I take it right away? And do it. You'll know that way.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Karen, you had a question too. You want to ask your question about the PMP experience for the ACP? Karen?
Yeah, sure. I didn't get my camera working, but
Okay.
I got my PMP certification last fall, and I'm looking now to go for that for the Agile ACP. So it's a second application, but can I repeat some of the projects actually used under my first application for the PMP? Can I repeat those for the ACP?
I'm not sure how to answer that, but it really depends on the initiative or the project. If it had some flavor or blend of agility, you certainly can try. I would also reach out to PMI itself and just ask them that question. Some of my experience was really in the flavor of being a Scrum Master, being a product owner, and working with Scrum teams. So it was very clear in the kind of experience I had. And it's, by the way, it's interesting. I do not have my PMP. I just have my ACP with the Project Management Institute and the string of other certifications under the world of agility. But again, if you have done something in the world of agility, see if you can use them. Just apply or reach out to PMI support, and they'll give you some guidance there.
Yeah, let me just chime in on that answer too for a moment, Karen. I recommend that you go to the PMI website. go to the ACP certification page, and there should be a handbook about that. That handbook, which I don't recall the details of it, may have the answer you're looking for. And of course, as Nitin said, feel free to call PMI customer support anytime and ask them about that question as well.
Yeah, I looked through that that
Mm-hmm.
handbook that you mentioned, and it seems like it can be reused from what I saw in there, but it wasn't clear.
Yeah. Yeah, PMI customer support would be your most definitive answer, Karen.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Sure. Srinivazan, you want to ask your question about scaled agile?
Yep, I see that.
Number 2. Okay. I'll just read.
Well, let me answer. I have it in front of me, John.
Okay.
Can you please clarify what is Safe Agilist certification, and how would you compare that with the CSM or ACP or PSM? Safe Scaled Agile Academy, it's more towards leaning. They have an intro level 2-day course, and you end up being a Safe Agilist or SA. I have some comparisons a little later. I have some biases against Safe. I am a former SPC. That means not only could I have worked at a program level, which I have, but I could have also hosted 2-day courses and certified people as a Safe Agilist. I just haven't had time to renew this. So I would say, and Bob Phillips also agrees with me, he's not here today, if your organization is very specific in its implementation, say, hey, we're doing Safe, then look at the Safe Agilist. The fundamentals of Scrum doesn't change. And again, that comes from the Scrum Guide, Schwaber and Sutherland. And if you want to get some of those, then signatories of the manifesto are under Scrum Alliance and Scrum.org, not Safe. So it's somewhat controversial in some ways, and it's a judgment call. So if your organization is heading that way and you're doing it, you could consider the SA. You cannot compare that to the ACP. ACP is broader because it gets everything, and ACP, I don't think now talks about Safe because it's just a methodology, it's a certifying body. ACP will get more into the Lean, the XP, the Kanban, the Scrum, the actual flavors of agility. Lofty also asks, what is the best or most trusted source for Safe? Go to the website. They've got what's called the big picture, and you can click through it and see what's there. We do have a trainer within PMI who I've spoken to, who you could look into Safe Agilist courses, or I could help again connect offline, and there's a Safe website. You can look for courses that way. So let me pause again. I'm going to jump ahead. Let me see how we're doing on time. 6:45, not bad. So I've gone over some certifications with the Scrum Alliance, Scrum.org. We've talked about PMI ACP. The CSP, this is what's called like the level 3 to the Scrum Alliance. Again, I bring a little bit of history. At some point, this was a proctored 4-hour exam or so. I took it around 2012. And this is where I could start comparing it to the rigor of what some people have as a PMP. But this has been phased out. Now, why do I bring this up? Because, one, understand there's a different way of going about getting your CSP or Certified Scrum Professional. And also, if you talk to people like some old farce like me, I might say, yeah, I took it when it was proctored, it was rigorous, it was tough. And now, people, and you might be interviewing candidates, and they've earned this a slightly different way. So there's a different narrative. So sometimes it helps understanding that background and the history. So I'm going to jump ahead. Get some comparisons, product owners. I'm going to skip over the developer, but again, it will be on the deck. And it's time for some entertainment. This is the time I'm going to request everybody just mute themselves, and I'm going to switch to a video from YouTube. I used to have this on an iPad, and I did some testing earlier. And John, I'm going to just ask you very quickly if you can hear this, so you can let me know in a few seconds. I'm going to pause this, play it, and pause again.
Is this place great or what?
I'd go with or what.
So John, could
Yep,
you hear
we can
that?
hear it.
Perfect. So today's entertainment is a scene from Madagascar. If you're not familiar with it, and you might, this is about a bunch of animals stranded in another country, and things get a little heated up. So let's watch this.
Oh, well, I tell you what, you're not gonna believe it, but I got a date with Moto.
Who's Moto?
Oh, he's so big and handsome and big. You know what Moto means?
Twins?
It means hot.
Hot?
Okay. When did you start parlaying African?
It is in my blood.
Well, don't worry. You can flirt around with Mr. Hot Pants after I'm gone.
What's the deal, Melman? Why am I the parade and you're the rain?
Why do you have to drive your parade under my reign?
Maybe I'll just parade myself in another part of town.
Whoa, Fine by me. By the way, Main Street's mine.
Well, you can have your old stinking Main
And you can
Street.
take your hottie tot float and your Mr.
My hottie tot?
Come on. Moto Junior
What are we
College.
talking about?
What are we talking about?
Downtown.
Why don't you just tell her?
You tell what? Tell her. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
So I guess I'll go then.
You know what? Don't
Well,
bother.
don't get up on my account.
No. Melman, Gloria.
Hey, I thought you guys were friends.
Come on, guys. Marty's absolutely right.
Marty? Marty? What the heck is going on?
You're not. Oh, he was. No, I thought he. You're not him. He's. Oh.
You thought that guy was me?
No. I mean, yes, you do, guys. Come
You
on.
thought I was him?
You guys do kind of look a lot. You look a lot alike. Marty, you look a lot alike. Come on. You laugh alike. You talk alike. He has the same sort of speech pattern. I mean, it's a little weird, really. You guys are. I mean, come on, Marty.
So, you're saying there's nothing unique about me. I'm just like any other zebra.
No. Of course you're different.
How?
Okay. I can't tell you apart. Maybe you could wear a bell or something? I don't know.
A bell?
Okay, not a bell. No, bell's a bad idea.
No.
Just
how about a t-shirt that says, I was stupid. I'm not stupid. Not you stupid. Him stupid.
You know what? While you've been off doing the prancing pony with your new posse, I've been having pretty much the worst day of my life, okay?
It's always about you, isn't it?
My problems are just a little bit bigger than yours, Marty. All right, I couldn't tell you apart. So what? Yeah, fine. Run away, Marty. Run away. That's what you do best, just like back in New York.
I'm right here. But you can't tell that, right? Your one of a million friend hopes you enjoy your bigger than anyone else's problems alone.
So hopefully that was a little entertaining and you enjoyed that. Why did I get that? And why did I play that video? Because you know what? There was a time I was looking at all these certifications and they kind of looked alike, like the two zebras. And I was like, I wonder what's the difference? And this is why some of us are here. In the world of certifications and the alphabet soup, they're going to be alike. So just keep that in mind. And it's just a slightly different way of looking at it. Now, at some time, I was comparing the Certified Scrum Professional with the ACP. Why? Because the Certified Scrum Professional, although it said Scrum Professional, I think they meant the Agile Professional with the Scrum Alliance. Because when I took it years ago, and it was proctored, they had different flavors of agility that they wanted you to know about. And it was similar to the Agile Certified Practitioner. So again, I compare it that way, and I think that might be a little similar. So before I get into training, I'll open it up for questions again very quickly, knowing we've got about 9 minutes. Anybody have any questions? And I'll also look at the chat.
Alan, if you want to turn on your camera and ask your question, you can go ahead.
I see. Wouldn't the PMI Acp better compared with Agile PM, DSDM? Now, 8-turn coach does the same thing as a CS.
Yeah, I'm having. Yeah, my computer's just running a little slow.
Okay.
Yeah, the Agile, the PMI ACP, I mean, and I think as with your PMI membership, you get access to the book, the Agile book with the PMI guide, the PMBOK, and together they kind of give you the basis for the Agile ACP. But I was looking at Agile PM, and basically has all the same elements, except they do factor in project management very directly, and they accommodate Scrum, even though they don't limit themselves to Scrum. So as a project management certification, what would be, other than pricing, wouldn't those compare better than to say that I'm looking to be a certified Scrum Master if I want to be Agile? So that's really, because it seems like Scrum and Scaled Agile really deal with the methodology, as opposed to, meaning software development or solutions development methodologies, as opposed to Agile PM, which deals with project management approaches and methods.
Here's the oxymoron, Agile PM. And this is a bit philosophical, it's a bit controversial, but it is thought-provoking, and I love the question. I would certainly recommend the PMI ACP to some people instead of just like an Agile PM. But it also depends on what your organization is doing, what the need is, where you're heading. There are a lot of startups today, and I've been in courses where I've been allowed to either observe or participate or co-train, where there are young CEOs wanting to know more about Scrum, and they want a Scrummy organization or an Agile organization. This can be a little intimidating and thought-provoking right there in that context. I would say, yes, the ACP is broader in context compared to just immersing yourself in one flavor of agility like Scrum, which remains the most popular based on industry surveys. I also appreciate people who are familiar with other flavors, and it gets again into what Lofty was asking in, hey, what if I'm setting up a PMO? There are other flavors, how do we go about it? So certainly, yes, look at broader offerings in the industry. But again, remember, the CSM is a 2-day intro course. Same thing with PSM. A lot of people don't have that background or experience to get the ACP right away. So it's just a stepping stone for something ahead. So I don't know if I fully answered your question, Alan, or not, but I think I went into a bit of a Zen philosophical rant there. There are no right or wrong answers there. Okay, there was a question saying, is there one book for agility that you recommend? Not one. I would try something a little differently. Go to agileexams.com and see what you get there. This is a wonderful site where you can possibly sign up for a month, 3 months. I don't know if they have assessments that are free now. And based on your understanding, they will recommend books to study or familiarize yourself with. So it's a bit of a trick, and it's a way through it. I always recommend the Scrum Guide, and I also recommend free online training through scrumtrainingseries.com, which are e-learning modules that are animated, about 7 minutes with light quizzes, and my 7-year-old enjoys them. So I'll have everybody pause because we're just about going to wrap up. And I'm going to talk a little bit about training or further training with scaling. Again, these slides are going to be posted to PMI New Jersey. I can also just list out very quickly on SlideShare where these are. I'm going to put them on the chat very quickly. Bear with me. If you want to get a bit of a head start. Now, scaling is always interesting to me because it gets into what we call the DNA of things, right? It's okay if you got one sheet, maybe two, but what do you do when you have 3 or more? It gets very interesting. And there's also the movie with Michael Keaton, I think it's called Multiplicity, where there was somebody who figured out how to clone himself, but as he started cloning the clone, he ran into problems. The guy was running into walls, talking funny, and so on and so forth. So you got to be very careful when it comes to scaling. Now, I'm going to just talk about a little bit of less Scale Professional Scrum, Scrum at Scale, and the Scaled Agile Academy, or SAFE, that's come about. SAFE is in the lead. It's very popular. And I think they've done a good job in marketing this, although less was there even before SAFE with Craig Larman and Bus Bodie. So less, very quickly, introduced by Craig Larman and Bus Bodie, and the Scrum Alliance has these courses offered, or they recognize it. So if you go there and look at scaling, you get this. I have the Certified Less Practitioner, 3-day course, about $2,900. There's something for executives. So if you are someone who's maybe working at a program, portfolio, thought leader, VP, who's really not rolling up his Scrum, sort of his or her sleeves as Scrum Master, product owner, or something for you. And there's also just an intro course, less basic. Scale Professional Scrum is through scrum.org. They started late, 2014. They're more popular in Europe from what I've seen online and what I've gathered. Scrum at Scale is with Dr. Jeff Sutherland. And Scrum Alliance started putting this up around April of 2018. So if you're looking for scaling courses, you'll see it here. Typical 2-day course, $2,000. And now we have SAFE. Again, this remains the most popular. The SAFE Program Consultant, or SPC, I did have this, is a 4-day course, approximately $3,500, and there's an annual renewal of $895. If you're an SPC, you can work at the program level. You can also certify people after you offer them 2-day training. And there's some links here which I won't get into. Now, because of time, and this is a topic in itself and it can go beyond an hour, I just wanted to show you that there's still a lot out there in the industry. Now, if there's an alphabet soup of intro-level courses, imagine what happens when it comes to scaling, because it is getting popular. I would look at LESS, SPS, Nexus, Scrum at Scale, and the Scaled Agile Academy. If you're venturing into this, if you're starting off something over here, know that there's a lot available. Some newer certifications are here, and I'm going to stay beyond 7 o'clock to answer more questions. But again, what's out there in the industry? Professional Scrum Agile Leadership, or PAL-1, is again for leaders in the organization. It's a very high-level basic certification. Professional Scrum with Kanban has just come about a year ago. And this is, hey, you know about Scrum, but what about Kanban? Is there a hybrid of sorts? We blend them together. So this is a very interesting offering to me. And hey, Professional Scrum with a user experience, because there are people in the world of user experience that enter Scrum teams. What happens there? So some very interesting, new, I would say exciting certifications come about over here. It doesn't have to be Scrum, it could be something else. Scrum Alliance also has leadership courses in level 1 and 2 called the Certified Agile Leadership. These are for leaders, as they say, who want to enhance their experience and take things to the workplace with the culture of agility, and the values, and the principles as well. And very quickly, I just want to end with a snapshot from the industry. This is through version 1's or CollabNet's now trends in Agile. This is the 13th annual survey. This is specific to scaling. So Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFE, is at 30%. Now, although LESS came out before, it's at 3%. This is where I say I think they did a great job in marketing and moving it ahead, and organizations are using it. You get the white papers and comparisons. Some people said, we don't know what we're using. And I think those are the hybrids and organically grown scaling models, which I think I appreciate. And that's what I've done a lot of at organizations. Scrum of Scrums is really more of communication between a multitude of teams, There are some internally created methods, which I think blend between the 8% and 19. There's that, which is more in the world of IBM, Spotify, which is the streaming organization, and some of the others. Nexus through Scrum.org is at 2%. But I'm not surprised because they came in pretty much right at the end. So some of this is logistical, some of the historic information helps, and some of this is, hey, what's popular, what's out there?